Hey guys, this is Danny and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'll be giving you guys a bunch of tips on how to get YouTube rank on the Hive. These are all the things that have helped me out and that I have learned over my time on YouTube. I also have a few things to not do to make sure you avoid doing if you want to get YouTube rank on here. And yeah, so let's just jump right into today's video. But first, make sure to like today's video and subscribe because I do have a bunch more tips, Hive videos, streams, giveaways, tons of things on the Hive that I think you guys would enjoy, so make sure to check those out. And yeah, let's head right into today's video. So the first thing that I just want to start off by talking about is just a basic thing about roughly how the YouTube algorithm works. I feel like the majority of people don't actually know that much about how the algorithm works on YouTube. So basically, the way YouTube recommends new videos is YouTube views are a lot less about searching or search results. It's more about suggestions and recommendations. And the way to get recommended has to do with your videos having good retention rate and good watch time. Basically, watch time is the amount of time people spend watching your videos. That one's pretty self-explanatory. And retention rate is how long people stay watching your videos. So you want to make sure that those are both really good. If your video has roughly a 20% or higher retention rate, that is pretty good. Click-through rate is also really important, but that doesn't have anything to do with the actual recommendations itself. That just is how often people click it. The higher the click-through rate, the better the video will do, obviously, but watch time and retention rate are actually how YouTube recommends it. And so you want to make sure that people actually enjoy watching through your videos, watch through most of them, and actually a bunch of people watch it for the watch time as well. So that's just the basic point of the algorithm. I will have a bunch of now I will get into a bunch of the specific tips on what you can do to make your videos more likely to be recommended. So the first thing that I want to say is that YouTube is about trajectory. It's very, very rare that you have cases like Dream or MrBeast where all of a sudden they'll just skyrocket in views to ridiculous numbers. What you will want to see is that every single week, your views are on an upward trajectory, that your impressions, if you don't know, impressions are how often YouTube shows your videos out to someone, just that all of your stats, your watch time, your subscriber count. Subscribers don't matter nearly as much as views on YouTube. Subs matter, obviously, you'd want people to subscribe, but views and watch time, retention rate, click-through rate, impressions matter a ton more. You just want to make sure that every statistic, an important statistic on your channel, is at an upward rate, and it's not something that it's okay if you have spikes. There are times where it goes up and down and then goes up again and goes back down a little bit, but you want to make sure that it's overall going up, and it's like a graph that slopes up on success. And just seeing that if you get 200 views in a video, if you make a video that meets expectations or exceeds expectations, that is good. You don't want to be less than expectation. Basically, as long as it is on an upward trajectory, that is what matters. The first official tip of today's video is to be consistent. And by consistent, I don't mean daily uploads, I mean consistent in what you can do. If consistent for you is one video a month, then do that. If consistent for you is one video a week or one video every other day, that's what matters. Consistency matters a ton to build an audience, so then an audience gets used to your content. If, for example, Evident posts and does streams at 7 o'clock every other day, people are used to that. They're like, oh, Evident didn't upload today, he's going to upload at 7 today, or he's going to stream at 7 today. So the consistency factor is how an audience gets used and comfortable with you, and they feel like you're a part of their day and they can expect it. And also, it is about the more consistent you are, the more the YouTube algorithm will start to like you and promote your stuff. If you have one video that blows up and then you wait 3 weeks to post another video, your chances probably hurt. So you want to make sure you can be consistent with what you're doing. It doesn't have to be like every day, but just consistent. The second thing is to make the best content you can. As MrBeast says, any content that is good on YouTube will do well. You want your content to be good, and you want your content to be the best you can do. If you put out a video that's rushed, that's not the best you can do, you shouldn't be disappointed if it doesn't do well. Obviously, you're going to be hurt if you spent an hour or 2 hours on a video and then it doesn't do well. But if you make the best content you can, you should always put up a video assuming it would do well. You should never put up a video like, and this isn't going to do very well. You should always have expectations that your video will do well, or hope. Maybe not expectations, but you should always hope your video will do well. Because if you go in there thinking your video won't do well, it probably won't. Sometimes it will, but it probably will not. So just try to make the best content that you possibly can, and then over time people will find it and good content will be found. The third thing is to not be afraid of change. If you make a video, if you test something in the beginning stages before you hit the algorithm, it's okay to test things. If you want to try something out, go for it. If it doesn't work, you change things up a little bit. If you make content, let's say you're making content on clutches and combos, but every content time that you make it on there, it's just not doing well. You don't have to keep going with it and just hope that it starts to do well. You could find something that you can change things up a little bit, try and make it custom. Just be okay playing with things, and don't be afraid to just not do something or change up what you're doing. It is very important to do that. Just try to find something that will do well and something that works for you. Some people like myself aren't great at PvP. That's why I make more commentary videos or stereotypes or stuff like that. Just content that would work for me. And that's why I do that. So just try to find what works for you and try to make sure you find something that just keep playing around until you find something that starts to do well. And yet my fourth tip basically is just off of that one. I basically went over parts of it, is stick with what works. Once you find something that works for you, try to make more things like that. You don't want to be like, oh, there are cases like DZ where you could do clutches and combos and you can just keep repeating that and people would still be interested because he's good at the game and you'd want to watch him play. But if you find something that works, just try to, if let's say, for example, for myself, what I did is I made the content about the fire sword and it did well, so I tried to make more content about things like that and just try to make things that I think people would like, and then change them just a little bit from the last one, or stay basically with that same idea and that same way of making content, but just change it a little bit. And that's basically what you'd want to do once you find something that works for you. The fifth tip is something I always talk about when people ask me. I think it's really important, is give people a reason to watch your video. In your title, you want to make it something that people, when they see it, they'll want to watch your video. You don't want the title to reveal everything about the video. So I like to put questions in my titles or answer questions. You can't really do that with like tips videos or, gameplay videos, but you do want to make it so then people don't have the answer to the video revealed in the video. You want them to see it and they'll want to click on it based off they're like, because people are curious. People will be like, oh, I'm really intrigued by that. I can't give like an exact example, but just try to give people reasons, like answer a question or give people a reason to watch your video. You don't clickbait. Clickbait on YouTube is not good. I can assure you that, because like I said in the beginning, retention and watch time will be down. You do not want to clickbait because the views will be good, but it will not recommend your video at all because people will click off. It is not a good way to success on YouTube. You want to make sure that you're providing what you're putting in your content, and you are also making sure that people want to click on it because it is something interesting. The next thing I'm going to be roughly going over is quality. Obviously, you don't need to have the highest tier quality, but you do want to have the best quality you can. You preferably want to have some sort of microphone. I know I actually started off without a microphone, and I used my Mac microphone a long time ago. It was really cringe. So you would want to try and get some sort of microphone. You can always use OBS. OBS is just a great way to do it. It is free. It works super well for streaming. It's just, don't even waste your time on other things. OBS just works great. You don't need the fastest computer. Obviously, you'd need it for streaming, but you just need to have something that will run to a decent rate. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars. You just need a computer that will work well, and you'd want to make sure that your content is in either 720 or 1080p in the best quality that it can be. Quality does really matter. You don't need to have the super highest quality if you cannot afford it, but you do need to try and have the best quality you can. So the most important things are, if you have a face cam, lighting is really important, but if you have you want to have a microphone, make sure your quality is good. If you sound good and it looks pretty good, then people will like it, other than the actual quality of your video and the person you are and just the way you make the way your video is. But for quality itself of just the footage, you'd want it to be pretty good. It doesn't have to be perfect, just make sure it's pretty good. The next thing I'm going to talk about is something that really helps me when I first started off, is it being interactive. If you make content on a stream, make sure you are being interactive with your audience. If you make videos, if you make a Discord server and talk to people, if you talk to people in the Hive hub, if you talk to people in game, you respond to comments, the more interactive with your audience, the more they actually get to know you as a person. If you just don't even talk to them, you make your video and you don't even interact with people, they won't get to know you for who you are. The more responsive you are and the more interactive with the community you are, the more they get attached to you, in a sense, where they like you, they're intrigued by your content, they're intrigued by you as a person, and just that kind of stuff where they're just drawn to you. So the more interactive you are with your audience, especially at first, once you're bigger, like let's say someone like Dicey's, who is arguably the most well-known person on the Hive, he can't obviously respond to everything, but when you're starting off, definitely try to respond to them as much as you can, as long as you are happy doing so. And yeah, is a really big tip. And the last tip I have has to do regarding thumbnails and titles. I kind of went over titles, but for thumbnails, you don't have to do anything too fancy. You know, a lot of the bigger YouTubers, if you look at someone like Skeppy or Evident, for example, if you're talking about Hive, their thumbnails are pretty simple. They're straight to the point. She's showing what it is. A lot of the time, screenshots with just some text on it works pretty well. You don't need to have these fancy, elaborate titles or thumbnails. Thumbnails do matter, obviously. You'd want to make sure they look good and presentable. You don't want just a random screenshot from just what YouTube gives you. You want to make something custom. Whether it's just a screenshot with text on it, that would even just be fine as well. You don't need to do anything too elaborate. You don't need to make like the fanciest thumbnail. And for titles, you want to make sure they're simple. Obviously, you'd want to make sure you have Hive, or if you're doing Skywars, put Skywars. Just make sure to put the basic keywords. Also, in the top of the description, you always want to put a brief explanation about your video, because those will have keywords that people will search for, so that is very important. I used to not worry about that. Now you just want to make a little brief explanation about your video in the top of the description. It does count as more tags and keywords for searching, so that is important as well. Now that we got out of all the things you should do, I want to say a few things you should avoid. So the first thing you want to avoid is keeping parts in your video that are boring. This has to do with the watch time and retention rate of it. You want to make sure that your content is not boring. People have low attention spans. You always want to make sure your content is something that you would enjoy watching if it wasn't your content. So make sure to cut out parts that are boring. People, like I said, low attention spans, make sure it will, and especially if you have a younger audience. If you have an older, mature audience, they may have more interest, but there will be younger people who watch it who are like 12, 13 years old, even younger than that, probably even less, maybe like 9, 10, 11, that don't have the biggest attention span, and you just want to make sure that they're enjoying what they're watching and there aren't any boring parts. That is really important for watch time and retention rate. The next thing is to keep things appropriate. This does not matter if you make mature type content, but on the Hive does not want people who will go around making inappropriate videos, or if they curse in their videos. That is not something that the Hive would want to represent them. They do not tolerate that in the server, or they would not want that. So if you do make content that is inappropriate or for mature type 18+ audiences, you will not want to do that. You'll make sure you want to be age appropriate, because if the Hive is going to give you a rank on their server, which would promote you as a content creator on their server, they would want to make sure that you make appropriate content to their audience of younger ages. So do keep that in mind if you do want to be a content creator on the Hive. Make sure you have a professional appearance and something that your history, you have a good reputation on the server history-wise, like your chats and all that stuff do matter. So make sure you are being appropriate, make sure you're not being toxic, and then the Hive will be okay with representing you as a content creator on their server. And the last thing has to do with the application. If you get rated, do not apply for YouTube rank. Or for example, if you have one video blow up or use shorts, do not use shorts. I'm just going to put that out there. Shorts are for limited time success. They are not long-term success. They are short-term success. Do not think that shorts will work for you long time in building an audience. But do not rush your application. You want to make sure that you are consistently hitting your mark, hitting over the 80 viewers on streams consistently, and getting 3K views consistently. You don't want one video to hit it and just apply. You want to make sure you are hitting it consistently before you apply, because if the Hive sees you rushing or forcing, or just, it may make your application take longer. You'll have to wait for a response. You'll wait 2 weeks. You'll think you may be getting it. they actually may not, like sometimes they get so many applications, they may not have time to respond to people. You know, there's just little things like that. They may have accidentally missed yours if you don't clearly meet the requirements pretty much. So just don't force it, because if you force it, it may make you take longer. And then let's say you have an opportunity to hit it and then your views drop a little bit, then you may be out of it. So you don't want to force it. You just want to make sure that you are consistently hitting the mark when you apply, because if you are forcing it or rushing it, it may make you take longer. And the Hive will also see that you're rushing your application and just trying to get the rank. They want to give it to content creators who make good content, and that will be good YouTube ranks for their server. They don't want people who are just going to rush and be like, I'm doing this solely for YouTube rank, and you know, basically just like that. So yeah, don't force it. Just, you know, it won't kill you if you don't get YouTube rank right away, if you have to wait an extra month. Just continue to, once you meet the marks and you are deserving of the rank, I assure you, you will get it if you do everything the right way, and just make sure to be patient with it as well. So yeah, that is everything from today's video. Hopefully there are some things that you could take from this video that will help you out. These are all things that I think can help anyone. Maybe not anyone, obviously. Not everyone will be able to get YouTube rank, but for people who make good content, for people that actually are able to follow most of these tips, your chances will be much higher of getting YouTube rank. I cannot guarantee anything, obviously. There is not room. There will probably be a bunch of people viewing this video. There will not be room for everyone on the server to have YouTube rank, but for content creators who make good content, that follow these tips and try to make the best content that they can, there will be people who will find success from this video and that are able to get the rank. So hopefully that is you, and that this is able to help you out with your channel and just help you on a trajectory to start growing your channel upwards instead of having a flat line of not much growth. So hopefully this does help you out. And yeah, like I said, make sure to subscribe if you are new. And yeah, thank you guys for watching this video, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day today. Goodbye, guys.